It's you.
How's it going?
To the fascist.
I'm a fascist?
Yeah, we've seen you at rallies.
Why do you think I'm a fascist?
We all know that.
No, but why? Why do you think I'm a
tell me why
fascist?
you're a
Please stop
fascist.
pushing me around. Why do you think I'm a
Get
fascist?
the fuck out of
Whoa,
our rallies,
I'm not in.
scumbag.
Hey, relax.
Get out of here.
Why
Get
can't I
out
be
of
here? What am I doing here?
Because you've been targeting people online and
Who
we
am I
know about
targeting?
it. Are you with him?
am
Are
I
you
targeting?
fucking with him? Okay.
I'm making a video on the rally. Any chance I could ask you some questions? So I wanted to ask you, what does it mean for you to be out here in the women's strike today?
You don't necessarily need to talk to this guy.
He's a right-wing asshole.
I'm not a right-wing asshole, but thank you for your time. You guys did it! No talking to the big bad fascist. No, nobody's gonna talk to the evil capitalist today.
Yes, they will.
Hey everybody, I am your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you from Union Square Park. We have the International Women's Strike. A lot of different interesting characters here. Let's go talk to some people, see what's going on.
Hi, I'm here as a trans person, as a trans woman, celebrating Women's Day, and as a person who presented as a male for so long, was witness to locker room talk, to toxic masculinity in boardrooms, in workplace, and so the society needs to change. Yeah. And so that's why we're here.
So I know you mentioned locker room talk and toxic masculinity. Could you expand to me a little bit more about, like, what is toxic masculinity? Because we need to identify the problem if we want to change it.
I think it's so obvious if you can't see it and you can't know it.
It's just because I think people conflate sometimes bad behavior with like toxic masculinity, because like they talk about things like rapes on campus and everything, and people call it toxic masculinity. I don't think there's anything masculine about that. I think that's just evil, condemnable behavior. So that's why I asked the question on like toxic masculinity.
A lot of toxic masculinity is evil behavior, so I don't know why you bucket it out.
Yeah.
Rape.
Yeah. The rape culture comes from toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity is a sense of privilege, a sense of right over other people's bodies. It's offensive, and it's violent, and it's oppressive. And so I do not agree with you on ruling rape on college campus out of toxic masculinity.
Who do you think perpetuates that culture?
It's unfortunately perpetuated by the masses. We're indoctrinated into our genders like a cult in society. And so men aren't even free to find who they actually are. They fill these roles that don't even suit them. There's a higher suicide rate in older men than anyone realizes. In older men.
Oh, yeah.
Than anyone realizes. It's unfulfilling lives. It's unfortunately women, a lot of women who unintentionally support the system.
I wanted to ask, do you have examples of toxic masculinity again? Because I just want to be able to point our finger at something so we can help solve the issue.
I have we all have millions of examples. I'll stick with yours. Rape on college campus, discrimination in a board meeting, talking over another woman,
Or trying to, if that woman says something and then trying to re-explain it to a group of people, I'd say that's a mansplaining. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And it's just, a lot of people say some really offensive things, and sometimes it's unintentional and sometimes it is intentional, and it's just really ugly behavior. And I really think what the march here today is about is supporting the women who are trying to overcome that, and also adding on to inequality in the workplace. I read in multiple websites that for every $1 a man makes, a Caucasian woman makes 77 cents, a Hispanic woman makes 56 cents.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more on that stat. So I read that study before. Obama actually cited it a lot. That's taking the net amount of men make and then the net amount that women make and then just dividing about the population.
It does. Talk with him more. I don't think so. I don't think you're.
That's fair. No. But
I don't think you should be here, to be honest.
Thank you for your time. Hey, any chance I could ask you some questions?
Nah.
Are you part of the organizers here or anything? Okay. Because I just wanted to ask, because you have one of the armbands, the DSA armbands over here. So are you part of one of the teams here? Thank you. You think it's weird that you're following me side by side? don't think it's a little bit weird to follow me around at all? You know, because at other times people have followed Jewish people around before with red armbands. Ring any bells? All right, thank you. Let's go talk to that guy. Get the camera. Look at this guy still following me. Turn around, put it on this. Who's this guy? Why is this guy following me?
People with armbands following Jews around. It's really something.
Come on. So are you guys out here for the rally today?
Well, actually, I didn't know this event.
This guy's a right-wing asshole.
You could let me. I'll show you how objective I am. And I'll show you exactly what my questions would be, and then you could decide for yourself. These people have been following me around and telling nobody to talk to me all day. I could tell you what questions I'm going to ask even.
Okay, ask your question.
So why are you guys out here for the International Women's Strike today?
Well, honestly, I love history myself. I'm a big fan of history. But also, I really didn't know this was going on until I came out here, and then I was really drawn to the crowd, and I was interested. I had no idea.
Yeah. So what big, large changes should we try to make to help improve the lives of women? You know, what?
Oh, eliminate the glass ceiling. You really just got to. Equal pay, like you have to start paying women for the equal amount of work that they put into the workplace, sometimes more than enough.
Yeah. I agree with you. I wanted to ask you, though, have you heard of that part of that statistic, the 78 cents on the dollar, right? Mm-hmm. So that doesn't take account equal pay for equal work, the same jobs and the same hours. That just takes the net amount of hours women worked, respective with all women, and compared it to how much money all men make and divided by all the population of men. That's how they came to that number. So there is an underrepresentation of women like the STEM fields. I want to ask, how could we encourage growth of women in those fields?
Oh, well, you can't make science and math like it's out just for boys and men. You have to encourage women to be in that position too. Yeah. And if women don't see that, if they don't see themselves in positions in the STEM field, then they have no idea that it's a possibility for them. Yeah. You know?
So how could we encourage at a young age to teach them that? Because I'll let you know, right now, more women are graduating than men. You know, more women have bachelor's degrees than men. So how could we encourage them to get those degrees in those STEM fields, though, that make more money than other fields that they're getting degrees in?
That's actually a good question. I would say, I don't know. I just feel like representation matters. Like for me, I never knew a black person could be president until I saw Obama in office. I just thought, you know.
And now do you feel like we could have another black president?
Yeah,
great.
I feel like that's a possibility. But before then, it wasn't something that I really considered or even thought about.
Yeah.
So I feel like.
You think a woman president would really help out the woman cause? Is that what you're trying to?
I feel even if she didn't, even if her policies like. Okay.
Like if she was a Republican, if it was a Republican woman, would you still think that breaks the glass ceiling for women?
I feel like it at least puts a woman in that position. You know what I mean?
You're making it sound like at least, I mean, the president of the United States.
I myself, I'm not Republican, so I wouldn't vote for a Republican woman.
Even if she was a woman, right?
Yeah, but at the same time...
Which is right, you shouldn't vote for her just because she's a woman.
But at the same time, I do believe that just seeing that possibility that, hey, I don't agree with her, but, you know, maybe I could take that spot, you know, and say the things that are on my mind. Yeah.
Have you heard of Nikki Haley before? She was our former UN ambassador. She's an Indian American woman. She's a conservative, so that's maybe why you might not like her. But she's a really great woman. I think she's going to run for president one day, and I think she could be our first female president. So I just think that would be really cool.
I would have to look up her policies, but
I also want to ask. So even with like things like being pro-choice, you know, we have very liberal abortion laws. Like, what else can we do to really help women and help the cause for women?
Oh, I realize that abortion law is very state by state.
Yeah.
And I feel like. First of all, you have to make it easily accessible, because I feel like the problem is that it's not always easily accessible for a lot of women, and that's the main problem. I believe that's the main hindrance. Like, yeah,
they don't have any money, and that's where it's difficult. Well, that makes sense for a lot of things, but specifically in abortion.
It's like, okay, I can't pay for an abortion, so I have to have this child. But then what? Then I end up putting more financial strain on myself when I knew from the very beginning that I wouldn't be able to support this child.
Definitely, that makes sense. Well, hopefully, you know, you wouldn't put yourself in that position. I know the Brooklyn Institute had 3 things if you wanted to get out of poverty. It's graduate high school, not have a kid before you're married, and then it's get a job. So Obviously, getting a kid before you're prepared for it can make that a lot harder, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that is true. Also, sex education is another big part of that.
Sure.
And the whole, like, providing contraceptives. Like, my high school, they didn't provide us with contraceptives. And I was like, well, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
That should be, like, important, especially in the nurse's office at a high school. Like, you know kids are having sex.
Yeah. So one last thing that I wanted to bring up is the single motherhood rate hurts women. It's best for a child and it's best for a woman when there's a husband and a wife in the family. And over the past few decades, that rate has skyrocketed. The single motherhood rate has skyrocketed. Divorce rates have also skyrocketed. How could we prevent those and help keep families together for the sake of the women, for the sake of the kids?
I'm honestly, well, actually, okay, in human geography, what I learned about is that there's a lot of economic factors that factor into it. For example, like for a lot of women in poverty, they actually get more money if they are a single mother comparatively to
which is
if
a
there's
bad thing.
man.
Do you think? I don't think we should be incentivizing that. There's correlations between welfare and single motherhood.
Yeah.
Strong
I believe
correlations.
that we need to reevaluate the system. I do believe that single mothers do need to be supported. Like that should never be.
But we shouldn't be encouraging it with getting more welfare for having specifically just more children.
I don't think like there should never be such thing as a cash baby, but I do think like we need to reevaluate the whole system.
Great. Was there anything else you wanted to note?
No.
Thank you so much for
Make America Great Again is out here, I see.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Ask you, why are you out here tonight?
Why am I out here? Because this is partially my home. I grew up in New York City.
But we're at a protest. It's the International Women's Day. So why are we out here for this rally?
I thought
Workers' Women's Day. It's a like.
I thought it was support, empowerment. It wasn't a protest. I thought it was to support women.
So I wanted to ask, in this day and age, if a man was born and a woman was born in the same situation, do you think they have an equal opportunity at things in the United States?
Absolutely not.
And why not?
I mean, there are multiple cases to support this. I mean, going from the Harvey Weinstein scandal and multiple, I don't know, just a lot of, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we could nitpick one-off male predators, but I'm
speaking of like the general outcry from women and almost like comedy shows, regular everyday women that just go ahead and say, I don't get paid as much, I get treated this way outside, I get treated this way in the workplace. There's plenty of outcry for women.
I want to ask you, so we're talking about the wage gap, right? You were using the 78 cents on every dollar statistic.
Yeah.
So do you know how that statistic's calculated?
Not enlighten me as far as 100%
Okay, so
how it goes.
it takes the total amount that women makes, divides it by the population, and then the total amount that men make and divided by the men's respective population. Okay. So it doesn't take into account extra hours and the type of work they're doing. Okay. So men are overrepresented in spaces. Relax.
You should also remember that when they're measuring it, they're not measuring mothers, people that aren't paid for birthing and raising children, which is free labor for capitalists. Like that's why this whole culture of women giving birth to as many babies is there. Is because capitalists in way back when, hundreds of years ago.
Explaining. Can I finish my interview?
Hundreds of years ago, they basically made the country like that so they could have a very
social explaining me. Can I finish my interview?
A very big, cheap pool of labor, and the women did it.
Let me know when I can finish, please.
No, please continue.
Okay,
I mean, I thought it was an open
so how do we
discussion.
encourage more women to get into the STEM fields where they make more money?
I mean, that's added on to what you both said. It seems to be a root issue. It seems to be okay.
I mean, women choose to be mothers, and then they don't make money when they're mothers.
Absolutely. And as far as, I mean, I don't watch the news too much these days, but I remember seeing a story recently about a woman who was actually let go from her construction company. Yeah, she was pregnant.
Do that all the time.
Like, you feel me? And
Do you think a woman who's pregnant would be a good worker in your construction business?
I mean, if she is raising a human child, or multiple human
If she's pregnant and she's working in construction.
Oh, what? No, but no, that wasn't the story. It was her leaving, right, for maternity leave, and then her coming back and wanting her job, and them saying like, "Nah, we can't have you back." And like that was pretty fucked up.
I
Like,
mean, I don't know the specific points, but if she did just get fired for having a kid, obviously wrong.
Yeah, like, you get what
obviously
I'm
wrong.
saying?
But
But
I want to dispel the myths about the pay gap because I don't think it's true. We're also one of the most liberal states, if not countries, on being pro-choice.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's necessarily a women's rights issue because I know a lot of women who wouldn't say that's a women's rights issue. So what kind of laws or things can we pass to help make it more equal for men and women?
So I think we need to shine a light of criticality upon the subject. You know, like get really in depth with it. Like as far as just the pay gap.
No, but I told you, it's because of different jobs and different hours worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as it being observed in research, then we should put a lot more effort into the research is what I'm saying. Like, I'm talking about not like...
Have you put a lot of... Let's be real right now. Have you put a lot of research into the pay gap?
I mean, myself,
have you read a study? Yeah.
At one point in time, yes, but as far as like, as it being an
because then we're talking about then we're talking about the basic points about it. It's not like the studies are misguided or anything.
Okay.
That's why women are paid less.
But
that's why women earn less money and they work less hours and they work different jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's just like if someone is raising your child, whatever the case may be, right? If they're supporting a family, raising a child, raising multiple children, maintaining a home, making sure it's clean for the worker, the whoever the head of the household is, to come back home, like at the same time, they like maternity leave, they deserve specific things for bringing in the new generation. Like I think we're only looking at it from a very like one or two sided point of view.
We already have things like Pell Grant and welfare, and it was an interesting point that you brought up welfare. So when we started instituting welfare in the 1950s, single motherhood rates and divorce rates skyrocketed. In some communities, like the African American community, they're around 70% right now, and I think that's one of the big issues that they're having in those communities. How do you think welfare affected that, and how could we influence more family to stay together?
I mean,
because you agree that the single motherhood rate being that high is a bad thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I also want to say, as far as just what was going on in the 50s and the 60s, and as far as what the African American community was specifically recovering from and still going through, I think it's a very difficult. I think that's a very
But then why would percent of single motherhood rates go up during that time?
Okay, what I'm saying is there are a lot of dynamics, like you feel me, like to that specific issue. So like cornering it and trying to correlate it to women's this welfare.
Which it isn't just, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot more information tied to that than just.
So how can we help lower that single motherhood rate?
I mean, I think that marriage itself was not a con. It was. It had a. What did it do? All right. So I looked it up one day. You give a diamond.
Stay together.
Yeah. You give the diamond. You feel me? At one point,
she stays with you. She raises your kids. She cooks dinner for you. That sounds pretty good.
The whole proposal, like ritual, like But at the same time, it's like. You got to look at the cultural influence. You got to look at the cultural outlook. You got to look at what people are doing as a whole. So the common man or the common woman or what anyone is doing versus like what a senator or anyone in political office is doing. You got to look at both in contrast and polarity. And a lot of times we don't. Like we'll see celebrities break up on and off and on and off, right?
It's a toxic culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So then when you go towards an actual person, right, just a regular person getting married, and it doesn't work out, that's one thing, right? But then you got to look at why people get divorced. Either someone was cheating, quote unquote, right? And that's just one.
There's a lot of things. There's a ton of things.
That's just one section. But we got to talk about people not being able to pay people not being able to pay enough, right? People not making enough, right, to make their wives or spouse happy. People not being able to provide enough for their children.
So there are a lot of people in a lot of poor countries who stay together longer than people in America do, who are in more poverty stricken. Because let's not forget, we're one of the more wealthiest nations in the world, right?
Absolutely.
So when I hear that kind of excuse, I think it's kind of a cop-out.
No. All right, so I get what you're saying, right?
Yeah, do you understand?
And I do.
Because if we can't make it work in the United States, where are we going to make it work? Why does it work in poverty-stricken nations?
I don't think that we should be an example for marriage and for like actual like. If it's bottom line love and empathy as far as just like two humans go, I'm not saying it can't be found here, but as far as us being a reference for that, I wouldn't use us as a reference.
Now, I also wanted to compare some women issues to some men issues. Did you know that women commit suicide almost twice the rate at which women do?
That is.
And is that any concern to you? Suicide. Or men commit suicide twice the rate that women do?
I filled in the gaps, but that unfortunately makes sense, and it's terrible. Like
So do you think we should have like International Men's Day get this much attention?
I mean, so you got to think about. All right, so I'm just gonna, as far as like the conversation goes, I've been wrapping up everything that you've been saying in my head.
Actually, we'll wrap it up here. So please have your finishing words.
So as far as so when you got to look at like welfare, poverty, et cetera, stuff like that, right? You got to look at just the basic quality of life that people were having in America, right? And like simply put, there were haves and have-nots, not just amongst African Americans, but Hispanics, Jews, all sorts. all across around, right? So when you look at a healthy marriage, right, and you compare a healthy marriage from one in America to anywhere else in the world, you got to look at the underlying conditions of a specific people, right? There are people who love nature. There are people who love looking at the sunset, people who love looking at the moon, and then there are people who want to go to Starbucks. There are people who want to party all day, right? Sure. I'm looking at the general quality of life. There are going to be people who are going to appreciate the marriage and wanting to stay together and just having a normal life. Then there are going to be people who want a bigger house, to move into a loft, to become an entertainer, to become any of that. What I'm saying is, as far as the quality of life in America, it varies from each individual person. It varies all across.
We're all individuals, and I agree with you on that so much, which is why I'm scared, because I think Democrats and things like that are doing all sorts of identity politics tricks where they're putting us into boxes, and I hate that.
And that's terrible. But I feel like the whole political sentence, I feel like the whole political party, both.
Well, let me ask you, so 90% of black people vote Democrats. Vote Democratic.
I think that is a statistic that is just thrown out there because it's a very stereotypical.
Now we have literal voting blocks, and now obviously a smart Democrat politician would obviously virtue signal to those communities. If 90% of those communities vote that way, it makes a lot of sense. But let's wrap it up. Finishing points?
But finishing points is the quality of life in America has varied, and there's always been have and have-nots. And as far as women goes, the treatment for women, when you look at pop culture, when you look at media, when you look at, I know things like Mad Men. Mad Men was a great show, but look how women were fucking treated.
But we could nitpick those statistics. I mean, incarceration rates for men are sky high compared to those of women. So if we want to nitpick statistics,
but look at the drug trade and what it did for predominantly dark-skinned people as far as mass incarceration goes. But that's a valid point.
Ask you, if a black male is much more likely to die than a black woman, in all cases, men are more likely to be killed in all cases across the board.
I'm going to revert to what I said at the beginning of the conversation. Like the average, regular, individual, everyday person, there's a lot of conditions. There's a chaotic amount of conditions that affect that. And that's what I said. There needs to be a critical light shown upon that image, especially when it comes to women, because if women keep talking about it as far as just a normal everyday thing, like I know women that tell me that they get treated in the nastiest ways just walking from 6th Avenue to Union Square, bro.
And men do too.
Yeah, so I'm a man, remember that, right? But you're also remembering that I could say, get the out my face to somebody, right? When a woman does it, oh, why are you acting like a bitch? Why don't you calm down?
Wait, but if a man still says that, I still think he's...
No, absolutely. But
and if a girl does it, then...
Yeah, absolutely. But you got to look at the perspective and the actual parameters of that interaction. If a woman does it, is she able to defend herself? Is someone going to call her, oh, you're just crying wolf? There are a lot of things.
So let me ask, do you think women should be able to have firearms? Because I do.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, but at the same time...
Okay, good, so let's loosen up gun laws, so when people try to rape women, those rapes could be killed by those men. Those women could kill the men trying to rape them.
Absolutely, I got
Okay, good, so I'm glad we could agree on something.
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
So thank you so much for your time.
No problem, dude.
I hope you think it was relatively fair.
No, you did good.
So I wanted to ask you, why are you out here today?
Because it's Women's Day, and as usual, I'm celebrating the actual holiday of Women's Day, celebrating women.
So I wanted to ask, a lot of people here would ask, what has Trump done for women? So I wanted to pose a question to you. What do you think Trump's done for women?
Sure, well, he has more women cabinet members than any other president in history. Okay. The women unemployment rate is at the all-time low in the history of the United States of America. So I think that's a pretty good thing. And just, just the attitude of really strong women is really high right now. Even right now, everybody's out here celebrating women. So I actually think that's a really good thing. They're doing it a little bit wrong, but at least they're trying.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, so now we have a record number of women members in the House of Representatives, and we also have a record amount of women graduating from college. It's actually more than men. So I wanted to ask you, how does that reflect our American values?
I think it's perfect. I think it fits in exactly with the message that's supposed to be, but I don't think it should be exploited. See, we're out here exploiting, and we should actually be out here like what's her name? Susan B. Anthony, right? She went out and celebrated just women. They're not celebrating just women. They're celebrating women, kind of, and I hate Trump, I hate this, I hate that.
Do you think conservative women are welcome here in the International Women's Day?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
As soon as I I don't know, maybe it's just like a personal thing, but as soon as I stepped out of the taxi to get in here, immediately said, you're not welcome here, you're just not welcome here, because I have the appearance of being different than what they believe is in their values.
Yeah. Do you think pro-life women are welcome here?
Oh, pro-life women are absolutely not welcome here whatsoever.
Yeah, because
if you just look at the booth right over here, this and that, whatever, but no, of course not. No. It's not in their agenda for pro-life women to be here whatsoever.
Yeah, because now I'm wondering if it's become a more intersectional issue, or is it still truly about women? Because if it is just about women, then we should be inclusive to women of all backgrounds, of women of diverse schools of thought, of women, pro-life women, pro-choice women, all women. And I mean, if it doesn't reflect that, it's just kind of sad.
Well, not even the women that are choosing to pro-life or against, but what about the 50% of women that are born that don't get to make the decision to whether...
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So why are we out here today?
Because today is the International Women's Day, obviously.
Yeah. Are you one of the organizers, or are you just one of the passersby?
I'm a part of the people who brought it here. Yeah.
Cool. So what does it mean? What are we trying to accomplish here and bring awareness to?
Obviously, there is not enough of the attention of the violence, starting from domestic violence and up to the state violence against the women, normalization of this violence, and also there are different groups related to different questions. For example, right now we see the group of the laundry workers who have big problem and major problems right now here in New York State.
Is something like the laundry, is that specific towards women, or are both men and women in that field of work suffering?
In the group of trade unions of laundry workers, there are men and women, of course, and both of genders and beyond the genders are suffering from the labor conditions. But it's not.
And how is it affecting them differently than it's affecting men, though?
You know, women wage is like. Do you know anything about the glass ceiling?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I heard the stat before that women make 77 cents for every dollar that men make.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's the problem as well.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that statistics, though, because that doesn't take into account all different aspects of why they make that money. So that stat uses all the money that women make versus all the money that men make, not taking into account what kind of jobs and hours worked. So I'm not sure if that exactly lines up here. Have you heard that kind of explanation to that stat?
I've heard about this kind of explanation, but what these people are requiring, and men at work in solidarity with women at work, to raise the wage equally, so equal work is praised equally and priced equally.
I know we're not seeing as many women as we are men in fields like STEM fields, which is like the science and maths and engineering. How do you think we could influence women to go into more of those fields, because those fields earn more money? Or should we not be influencing them too?
I promise women are influenced and empowered enough. Men are just have to be in solidarity and right on time to just to be there if needed, and just to be out if not.
How can men be allies here? So like me and you, we're both men, right? How can we help out here?
I am Elad. I was organizing a prop making workshop, so some of the things that will pop up as props here are part of it. So like, give a space, give your skills once in a while.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask, I know the Me Too movement is huge with solidarity with women. I wanted to ask, do you have any thoughts on the Me Too movement, and how does that tie into the International Women's Strike?
It's an important movement, and it actually represents the whole ages and ages of oppression that was silenced. Right now we need to raise the voices and to find the ways to extinguish this.
And it feels like it touches everybody. It touches people in the entertainment business with names as big as Harvey Weinstein and as small as Aziz Ansari, and you have Bill Cosby, and then it also reaches into like judicial courts with Brett Kavanaugh. How can we make sure that all of these are like-kind Me Too issues, though? Like, are some people getting dragged into the movement, or how is it going right, or how is it going wrong?
Men has to really rebuild their ideas of being a man, of like men and masculine.
Really masculine.
Masculine toxicity is the most poisonous thing.
What is toxic masculinity?
Machismo is one of the most kind of known examples. When you are macho, you are the pole of the world, and every single thing in this world is just rolling around you. So
it sounds like a narcissist. Doesn't sound like masculinity at all.
Machists, like all machists, are narcissists. So, and when the masculine person is particularly requiring more attention towards him, more labor towards him, that's it. That's where oppression comes from. But I would really recommend you to address some women on this.
I definitely will. Was there anything else you wanted to note?
No, I'm just here, and I'm glad to be here in this day.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So why are you guys out here for the International Women's Strike today?
I'm just walking around, but I'm all for women's equality.
Yeah. So what do you think's going on over here? I think we have a lot of different mascots.
I think people are turning it more into a political thing rather than a human rights issue. And I think we need to delineate political from human rights, because no matter what party you're on, I think you need to believe in that women are equal to men and men are equal to women.
What law should we change to make women more equal to men? Like where aren't they equal?
I think the law is already up to speed. I think it's more human nature that isn't up to speed, and I think it's a lot of chauvinistic values that are not, and that are perpetuating this. And I believe that people need to grow in that aspect.
Yeah,
you
a
know?
lot of people accredit it to toxic masculinity. I wanted to ask, what do you think about toxic masculinity as like a concept?
I think it's a weakness within men, to be honest with you, because a truly balanced human being, whether they're a man, woman, whatever they ascertain to, shouldn't put down any other gender or any other people.
I don't think anybody should put down any other gender. So do you have examples of toxic masculinity, like specifically? Because some people say rape, but I don't think there's anything masculine about rape, you know, and I don't think we should just be saying bad behaviors like are toxic.
Both ways, you know. I mean, with the whole Me Too movement, I knew particularly people that were on the opposite end, that were gay models, male models, and they were what's his name? Not Mario Testino, the guy that did fuck, I can't think of his name. My uncle worked
just
for
what
him.
he did, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, they were abusing men just as equally as women to further their career or blacklist people. So it happens on both ends of the spectrum.
Oh, definitely.
So
I wanted to ask, what do you think about how the Me Too movement intersects what we're trying to accomplish here today?
I think it's a polar opposite, and anytime that we have extremes, we're not going to have communication. And, you know, it happens with racism, too. We go back and forth. You have people that say whites are racist, and then you have a rising of black power. And we're never going to find a happy medium if we continue to go, let the pendulum swing from one extreme to the other. We need to meet in the middle and find balance.
A lot of people are saying Donald Trump actually swinged it so hard right that now we're going to have a left rebound, and people are getting excited with Bernie Sanders. So maybe if the goal was getting Bernie Sanders elected, Trump might have even helped him.
It's a possibility. I think any time that you swing, it's physics. You know, life, you can relate it to that, and we're going to go in the opposite direction. Yeah. So
I also wanted to ask, a lot of people are talking about the wage gap, and one of the big reasons why the wage gap exists is that women take different jobs than men, specifically not in like the STEM fields. So how do you think we could encourage women to get into those fields if that's the goal, to have them make as much money as men do for the same work?
I think women are actually performing better. I mean, the last statistics that I saw as of recently are getting higher earning jobs. There's a lot more women CEOs and COOs.
I know more women have college degrees, but I don't know if they get paid more because they're doing different work.
I mean, companies like Google and Apple have just recently came out and said that they don't necessarily need a college degree because they're finding that some of the best hustlers in the world don't have degrees.
Yeah. So. Have you heard that Google's actually paying their women more for the same work as men, and they actually gave the men the pay raise recently?
I have not heard that, but I find that interesting. I mean, if we want equality, we can't start going in another direction, even if it's for compensation or for that. I mean, the only way we can truly compensate is treating each other like humans in equal ways. So.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to note?
No. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. I wanted to pose the question back to you. What do you think about modern women's rights in the USA? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Guys, if this is your first time here, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed. Let's do a couple more.